Hey everybody, so today we're going to be talking about trigonometry. Trigonometry is the study of the relationship between the sides and angles in triangles and geometry. We specifically use trigonometry to find the measures of sides and angles in right triangles. So you'll only ever be asked to apply this to right triangles. We know this is a right triangle right here because it's got this little box in the corner. So that's letting me know that's a 90-degree angle. It's a right triangle. So the first thing we need to know are these three trigonometric ratios. They are sine, cosine, tangent. So this S here for sine. Sine is the relationship between the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So it's opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine, our second ratio right here, that's the relationship between the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. And then our last trig ratio is tangent. That's the T, tangent. And that's the relationship between our opposite side and our adjacent sides. We're going to talk about what those mean in a little bit. But first, we need to know what the opposite adjacent hypotenuse sides are. So here we have our right triangle, and we have this angle over here that is labeled. That's going to be our reference angle because that is what we are referencing to label our triangle. And you can see that it's labeled with this little zero with a line through it. That is called theta. Theta is a Greek letter. It's a variable just like x or y or any other letter that we'll use to represent a number that we don't know or that could change. Our opposite side is always going to be across from the reference angle. So in this case, our opposite side is going to be 7. And then the adjacent side is the side that's next to. Adjacent means next to, and it's going to be next to our reference angle. You can also think of it as being between the two angles, so between your reference angle and the right angle, in this case 24. And then the hypotenuse, which you've probably heard of before, is always going to be across from the 90-degree angle. And in this case, that is going to be 25. So we apply these trig ratios. You can do it to identify what the ratio is in any given right triangle. You can also use it to solve. I'm going to show you how to set up equations in just a second. But first, we're just going to identify the trig ratios for this triangle that we've already labeled. So the first step is always writing down SOHCAHTOA, and then we're going to label our triangle. We just did that. And I'm going to think through what is our O equal to? Well, in this case, our O is equal to 7 because we wrote O by 7. And our H is equal to 25 because we wrote 25 next to, or we wrote H next to our 25. And our A is equal to 24 for the same reason. So now when I'm trying to find sine of theta, I'm going to look at my little cheat sheet here, my SOHCAHTOA, and I see sine. So our SO is O over H. Well, our O in this case is 7 and our H is 25. So O over H is going to be 7 over 25. Cosine is A over H. So in this case, 24 over 25, because our A is 24, our H is 25. And then last but not least, O over A, our tangent is going to be 7 over 24. So we use these so that we can actually solve for missing sides and angles. In example 1, we're going to be looking at setting up an equation to solve for a missing side. And it's the same first step for both. We're going to write SOHCAHTOA, and then we're going to label. So our x is A because it's between our two angles. 3 is going to be H because it is across from the right angle. And then we can label that blank side O because it's across from the reference angle. In this case, we really only care about our x and our 3 because that's what sides they have given us. And this is A and H. So I'm going to look and see which one over here. So ka or toa has an A and an H, and it looks like it's our ka, our cosine. So I'm going to write cosine, and then in parentheses, you're always going to write your angle measure, whether it's 47, 30, 50, x, y, theta, it doesn't matter. You're going to write that in parentheses. And then cosine is A over H. We know what our A is. In this case, it's x. So instead of A, I'm going to write x, and instead of H, we're going to write 3. And that's it. We're going to learn how to solve that later. That's all you're going to do for now. For our second example, again, we're going to label. So 12 is O, 19 is A, that blank side is H. We don't really care about it. And so I'm going to look at the two sides they gave me, in this case 12 and 19, that's O and A. I'm going to see which of these has an O and an A, and that's tangent. So I'm going to write tan, theta, because that's our angle, is equal to an O over A, but it's not O, it's really 12. It's not A, it's really 19. And that's it. We've set up that equation. We're going to learn how to solve it later. But for right now, that is all you need to know for the introduction to trigonometry. I will see you when I'm looking at you.